Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I feel like it's been like a month or a year since I've done a reading because there's so much. It feels like everything is just like changing like every day or every even like half day or something. And I guess that's what I was talking about last week too, where I was talking about what I think I even titled it that, like on the brink of exponential expansion, right? And I was talking about the kind of like chemical reactions, and that's what I feel like it's been all week long, where it's like having a new point of attraction where a whole new set of circumstances comes in, and then that changes you, and then you pull in something else, and then that changes you, and it just keeps going really, really quickly. My daughter and I, for years, we've been talking about this energy that we felt coming, and we were calling it the blackout, where like at a certain point, it's almost like the priming of the well, where the water that you prime it long enough and the water gets flowing, almost like that, where you're in the flow and things are happening so quickly that you can't even track it. And I think in this instance, it's like we're having like really profound breakthroughs and shifts. And for me, actually me and my daughter both separately, because I was down at the desert house with my son and she was here in Silver at the house. And so separate, but both within the same 2 days, we had like a very, very similar realization, involving our fathers, actually, both of our fathers. But it was just this huge, like deep, like core wound opening realization, kind of aha moment. And I kept having those where I would just see the fabric of reality as love, or just see the truth of it and feel this like huge expanded state. And then the very next day, or even that, like the same night, I'd feel all this density. I'd feel all this density and have all these really crazy dreams, and wake up the next morning and feel density. And it's like when things are cycling through, because we go through cycles and we can track them. I remember tracking them when I was a teenager. It was like the expansion cycle, and then you kind of like stabilize from that, and then you get kind of bored, and whatever it is, you call in something else, and then and then there's a trial that catalyzes you, and then you have another breakthrough. But they were like spaced out kind of like over months or years or weeks, and now it feels like every few hours or every day or this and that. And so when you're seeing the cycle so close together, it's like you can really track it and be like, oh, we're here again. Okay. And what this is. So, it's like I kept noticing that right after I had an expansion, there'd be this density in this clearing, and which is what I realized, the clearing, and we do know this, but yeah, it just felt really, really, really kind of intense. It's almost like the polarities are really extreme right now, where you have like this huge, because that is the nature of the polarities. If you're here, you're going to be here. If you're going from here to here, you might not notice it so much, but if you're going from here, the opposite, the polarity of that is quite a distance. So it can feel like we're swinging, but really just expanding, and then purging, and then having the realizations, and so many of them. The other thing that I'm finding is I'm really being, called to be social, but not just social as in going out and doing things, because the people I'm socializing with are very conscious, awakened people. So it's like coming together with soul family, where I did 3 different groups, and maybe like a 3 or 4 day period, where like one of them, my daughter and I went out to this ecstatic dance, but with a friend of ours, and there was other friends that we knew there, and just on this amazing, amazing land and hot springs there, and wonderful community and wonderful kind of interesting history. It used to be tuberculosis sort of sanitarium type of thing. And so all this history and all these layers with the land and the history and all this, so just all this information, right? And then all the different people there, and the swapping of files and the codes, and we all kind of, so we've been having a lot of solar flares the last, this week, really. It started that day that we went out there to that land. And when we got there, our friend that had invited us was in a really weird space, and so were we. And I was like, and that's the other thing, when I'm in a weird space, I'm like, I'm not canceling anything. I'm not, I'm just going to push through this. Even if pushing through is just like laying low for a few hours or whatever, but knowing that it's just energy moving, and giving it the space for that, but still doing what I feel called to do, or what's in the lineup to do. And so we went out there, even though we felt weird. She was feeling weird. And after we all sat in the hot springs together, after a little while, it's like we started having the downloads, and, we're all kind of like that receptacles. And so we just started putting it all together, and the energy moved, and then we danced in the group with amazing music, and anchored it all down and that type of thing. And so we didn't get home. It's like maybe like a 40-minute drive from where I live. And so we didn't get home till like after 10, we got to bed late. And then I woke up the next morning, I had like another group, totally different people, with a totally different sort of like reason for gathering and different codes and different topics. And so it was like one super coded thing right into another one. And then, 2 days before we had gone to the hot springs place, we were somewhere else out in the middle of this like gorgeous, amazing coded land with other people. And it's so weird because normally I'll do like one social thing, and then like nothing for like months, like that's enough. And so I'm noting, the pattern of like this and then this and then this, and there's like 2 or 3 other things in the lineup. So yeah, like a lot of sort of collaboration and teamwork. But the reason why I brought that up is because it's on so many different levels and so many different places. So like each group for me representing a different energy and sort of a different piece, but all of it sort of being connected, but you might not even know it, and just working on all these different levels and just kind of noticing the patterns where it's like we're really moving through a lot, and we're moving through a lot really quickly, almost where we can't even track it. And so I am going to jump into the cards pretty quickly today and just kind of see how I'm guided to talk about this energy. We have been having, did I say that? You probably know we've been having a lot of flares. Yeah, I did say that. The flares the last Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. So today's Friday. So the last 4 days, I think we had 8 today so far. And and it's been a little while since we've had them. So that feels to really match this energy as well, where it's just kind of like, let's go, let's do more, where we're just really busting out, and again that blackout where you can't even track it anymore. You're just in it, where we're like getting used to flowing. We're getting used to surrendering, and and just being kind of multidimensional, where we can have a lot of expansion and at the same time have a lot of density clearing, and just allowing ourselves to feel like sort of contradictory things at the same time, and just trusting and flowing. So let's see what we get for an overall energy for today. Oh, interesting. Wow. So Armadillo spirit, set healthy boundaries. Let me clarify that and see why that might be coming up. Let's see. Okay. Oh, interesting. Okay. So the 10 of Cups, this is kind of my like heaven on earth, card. The 10 of Cups, just a lot of happiness. There's the Buddha, and he has his pearls and he has his roses, and he just this sort of like, what the state of consciousness that we're embodying and that we're unveiling and that we're stepping into. And so this message was coming up a little while ago, a few readings ago, just having boundaries around that and really kind of preserving that space. And so even for me, when some of those, like I'd have this like huge expansion, I'd be in this energy, and then the next day there'd be all this like density and this feeling of lack and limitation. And it's kind of that energy of like, am I under psychic attack? Is this a goblin at the gate that's trying to hold me down and keep me in the density? And yet that's it is true. And I always say this from a 4th dimensional perspective. It absolutely is true that we have, attacks and we have these energies. But on the other hand, it's like it's in us as well. It's in us as well. So we're clearing those programs, and we're clearing the thought forms and the patterns and the habits and the patterns of energy, the way it runs in our body, those habits of thinking and addictions to thinking and feeling and reacting that make us susceptible to those energies, and even create those energies, like our miscreations with our misaligned thoughts and energies and beliefs and that type of thing that kind of creates this like false reality, this like false timeline in us that then attracts a like energy to that. So it's like we're really battling ourselves, we're battling ourselves, but we're having boundaries on all of that, everything that comes with that in relation as we're expanding, because it's going to keep rearing its ugly head as it clears, but also to not fall back into it, and to like, the other day when I felt really weird, and my friend as well, she was just like, she canceled, which we realized she was going to come into town because she wasn't sure if we were coming. She didn't have a cell phone at the time, and I was just trying to telepathically tell her we're coming, but she felt really weird, so she didn't go into town. She wouldn't have been there then, and you have to be sponsored when you go out there because it's private and stuff like that. And so we would have been yeah, we would have just been, it would have worked out, but anyway, so she didn't go into town. So she was on the land, and then when we came, everything shifted in this kind of thing. But yeah, just that whole thing of feeling, in that case, the feeling of wanting to cancel things like really worked out. But where you're like, I'm just going to stay in bed all day and I'm not going to do anything because I feel so weird. And yet like not letting yourself fall under to that, and just knowing that, like I said earlier, the extremes seem to be really drastic, because we are reaching such heights, and we're reaching the truth of reality. So the opposite of that we have to clear can be quite a contrast. So just having it's almost like the boundaries are like clarity, like seeing what's going on, seeing the context of what's happening, and not allowing it to pull you under, knowing that there is a movement and a purge and a contrast, and just kind of a wobbly time. Also a lot of intensity. Kind of feels like a labor type of energy too, with the assistance from the solar flares and the comets again, and the galactic energy. There's a lot of assistance. It's almost like doing something to stimulate and bring on the labor and the contractions, to just kind of turn up the volume, right? Feels like that. I was going to say crunch, but I've used that word so many times, and this is just like a whole next level. It's a whole new energy. I've never felt it like this before. So it's kind of why I'm jumping into the cards early to see what we get here. Okay, the Emperor. Wow. So this is my Slavic tarot deck, and I just love the Emperor in this deck. He's kind of old. He's kind of tired, but he's like an old tree. He's like an old growth tree, and even the roots down here, he has roots. He's been around. This is the old soul. This is the old soul that knows, that's always seen this. This is us, that has seen this vision all this time, and it's like we've anchored and we've held on to it, and we're kind of tired. It's like we're coming into this energy, but we've been at this a really long time. And I think for a lot of us, there's probably this feeling of like, wow, feeling this sort of liberation and moving into this new energy, but also like, really, because we've been kind of holding this space for a long time. It's hard to kind of believe or surrender or relax into knowing that we are at this point in human evolution, that this is just where we're at, So again, there's kind of that energy of preserving, with the boundaries, preserving this, protecting it, protecting your vision, protecting it. Like, it's really intense right now, but it's almost like, not that we even can give up, but like, don't give up now. Like, we're at the finish line here. But yeah, the kind of a tired energy for the Emperor, and yet he's the Emperor. He the way the Emperor comes through for me, the way I read, I know there's negatives with him as well, but I often read it as, kind of an apex of sovereignty type of energy. Just nothing in the way. Nothing's going to fool you, that type of thing. So, all right, so let's see what else here. Oh, interesting. The Page of Cups. So this came up in a personal reading that I did today. And the Page of Cups being sort of this like, innocence in a way, and this playfulness and this childlike, it kind of reminds me of porcupine energy, where it's like beginner's mind, where you kind of just let yourself be young again. It's like, so here's also relating to this, where it's like we've kind of been at this like space holding, remembering for so long, and now we're moving into a new phase where this energy is actually unveiling, where we get to live from it and through it, and it's a brand new thing. It's like a brand new thing where we have to have that beginner's mind and that humility and that sort of, I don't know, and that's kind of how I'm feeling a lot these days. Just this openness, where it's like, I don't know how I'm going to feel in an hour or in a day, or, and just staying open and staying present. I remembered that I used to say every morning, I am, what did I say? Oh, I'd say like, I'm open to, maybe I'd say I'm a magnet to miracles. I can't wait to see what's coming for me today. I can't wait to see what magic is coming for me today, and just kind of lining up the energy in that way, where we don't really have to know anything, but we're open to receiving, we're open to flowing, because again, the energies are moving so quickly, and just not getting sort of caught up on any any particular phase, right? Because it can move, and just keeping your energy moving and keeping your, and not to say to like ignore if you need to go into a purge or into rest, like feeling tired, not to push through and ignore yourself, but to not fall under. Yeah, to not fall under. Okay, let's see here. Oh, wow. Okay, the King of Wands. So he's been coming up in a lot of the readings, and that's that leader, that leader that, and it's kind of another emperor type of energy. They both have this sort of like fire element, like Leo, Aries, kind of type of energy, just sovereign. And so that is kind of an energy of like, of pushing through, and there's that boundaries as well. Like if you know any Aries men, for example, or Leos, that type of energy, it's like nothing's gonna stop them. Like they're the pioneers, and they're out on the edge, and they're gonna push through. They just have the energy and the stamina and the focus. So a little bit of that energy coming up again. So that feels like a strong message in this reading. Okay, let me do an oracle up here in this row, and then we'll go underneath. No, I think I don't want to take both. That was 2 cards. I'm just going to take 1 card because I only have room for 1. Let's see what this is. Oh, interesting. The wing leader. So there's another, this is a real leadership type of energy. This is a real leadership type of energy because it's so sovereign, and he's the emperor. So he's leading, the wing leader, and yet it is kind of similar to this type of energy where you're in just completely new terrain. You're flying out beyond the edges, and you're also naked. You're kind of vulnerable. You're completely vulnerable, and you don't really know what's going on. You don't have any armor. This guy might have armor, and this one is suggesting armor, to kind of protect yourself in this, protect the mission, protect the vision, but also the polarity and the contradiction of like, while you're completely vulnerable and open, and while you're embracing the unknown and allowing your spirit to guide you. That's another thing that you might remember if you've been watching these readings, because this one has come up the last 2 times, where he's a spirit-led leader. He listens to his intuition and to the feminine energy within him, his soul, and he takes action on that. So he's co-creating with spirit, and in that sense, there is a surrender, and there is a sense of protection, because you're listening to a higher order. But so in the personal reading that I did today, where this came up, that was sort of this energy, as well, where it's like she was embarking in something completely different. And she had the emperor as well, actually, so it feels different decks, completely different decks. So they didn't just fall out, but yeah, it was this emperor energy that we've earned over our lifetimes, or we've earned through our trials, or through our, just the initiations and being in this place of power. But it opens up this whole new beginning, and then the importance of being spirit-led, and surrendering, and being in that space of journeying into the unknown. But then there's also this protection. So I'm going to pull a card to go underneath that. This set healthy boundaries, having boundaries around yourself. Oh, interesting. So benediction, and sort of that assistance coming in, which is also sort of a protective type of energy. So that's interesting. Yeah, things have been moving so quickly, and again, the realizations that I've been having, like when I danced through the other day, ecstatic dance, they had some African dance, which is interesting because this is kind of, with the safari and the lion, and they had some African dancing. And whenever there's African dance, I just always hurt my knees because I do a lot of like hopping and like stomping, and so my knees are hurt right now. And so I'm also Capricorn, so our knees, it's like vulnerable. But in the energy work that I do, the knees are always where the Akashic stuff shows up. So I was sitting outside in the morning in the sun, and I had my bare feet on the earth, and it had just rained, and it was really wet and moist. And so I was sitting out there, and I was doing energy work on myself, and I was feeling into my knees, and I always feel the left knee as that sort of persecution energy, and where we were victims. We were victims of something. We had some kind of tragedy. We had something, and often, it comes through for me as like, well, you couldn't, really, follow the lead of your soul because you were, drowned or institutionalized or, killed or hung or whatever, that's often a lot of the persecution stuff. But this time, for myself, it was like catastrophe, like Earth catastrophe, like Atlantis and Tiamat and Lyra, when we were taken from our planets, and the breeder programs and all these things. If you've been listening to me for a while, I've been talking about this stuff as it's come into my consciousness over the years. And so the first time I hurt my knees, which was in 2017, which was around the time of that huge eclipse that went all across America. And I hurt my knees. And that's when my memories around Atlantis and the fall of Atlantis really came online, in the sense that I knew that that's what I was working out with those knee issues. And it was started with the left, and then it went to the right, and so working out that. But this one was like, it was like all of them. It was all of them. And it was that catastrophe. So I feel like this kind of connects with this type of energy, where it's like, this is the time where we're breaking out. We're not gonna fail. And even those weren't failures. They were just part of the cycle. It was part of the cycle. We were on a descending age. It was time to fall. Again, the world of duality. We're working out the polarities. And so a lot of us chose to go into the dark and to play the darker roles so that we could understand it, so we could unravel it at this time. But we have these cellular memories that are coming up in this energy, where we start to fear, we start to, we're clearing a lot of that stuff, a lot of those memories. Same thing with me with the knees. But we can also just kind of feel the trauma of it. And so there's a lot of that too. Set healthy boundaries around that by seeing the bigger picture and knowing that this is the time when things are different, and that those memories coming up are here to clear, so that we have a clear channel to move through. So coming out with this benediction card, it's almost like, we're being assisted to have some of these memories that are coming up, the things that we are clearing, that we got to be careful not to like complete, or to like follow through with the trauma loop with that, to allow it to be a clearing. But it is being pushed up because it needs to be cleared. And I think a lot of us, anytime we have some sort of threshold or breakthrough moment, we bump up against what would be the card for that? I don't know what the card for that would be, but we bump up against those timelines, that those earth catastrophes and those traumatic moments in our history, because we are on the brink. We are on the brink of moving through. And just this reminder that we're being assisted, that we are being assisted, and not only from our higher selves and the aspects of us that we might look at as being outside of ourselves, but are actually us, our galactic families, our ancestors, but also the cycle of the ages, where we're at in the cycle of the ages. We're on an ascending cycle where we're coming into the higher age. We're coming back into that, and unifying the polarity. So all of the falls that we've had and all of the catastrophes have been about understanding that opposite polarity, so that we have both light and dark, and that we can bring them together in consciousness now, which is what we're doing. And it's also what we're doing in having healthy boundaries, where we can be with both our expansion and the release of our contraction at the same time. And there's that unification, which is what wholeness, and this is actually about, having everything together. Used to be together, and then with the fall they got separated, but you kind of had to go into the fall to still have both, right? And now we're holding them both at the same time. So that's kind of interesting. That's interesting that I ended up talking about that. Okay, so let's see what else here. Let's see what comes out underneath the Ten of Wands here. Oh yeah, the Moon card. So there it is again, and I know a lot of us are having this feeling of like, oh my gosh, like for example, when I had that energy work that I talked about, if you've been watching these a couple weeks ago, and she was finding these sort of like heart walls, and the things that she was identifying for me, I was like, wow, like I thought that I had already already cleared that, like it's been so many years, and I thought that I had already cleared that. I don't have any triggers around it. I'm at complete peace with the people involved, and all this stuff. And yet the layers in the subconscious and I know this because I'm an energy worker myself, but it's like, it's just, I think a lot of us can be kind of shocked. It's like, seriously, like I've been working on this type of thing, to the point where like I have such deep roots with this, and yet there's still more and more and more layers. Sometimes I listen to my daughter talk and I can see so clearly where what she's going through right now or what's triggering her is connected to something from her childhood. And yet, it's like she's come so far, and she's in her power and she's doing all these things, but just the seeds of that, the seeds, the layers deep within. And so again, there's that contrast of like, as we awaken and we reach into these higher energies of what we're here for and what we've been with before, coming back to that, it's just kicking up a really, really deep purge, like really just subconscious, beyond what we can see, beyond what we can even track. So again, speaking of the cycles, this type of energy comes up, like I'll notice in the readings, we kind of do the same theme, like every few months, or, like, oh, I remember one exactly like this, like a year ago, and it's like, because we're going around, and of course it's a spiral, and, when you come around again, it's, on a deeper level, and you're getting deeper down, deeper things, but just that same kind of that same phase in the cycle, right? So a lot of that right now is what it seems like. It feels like that too. But again, I think that's why it's kind of hard to track it, because it's so deep and it's so cellular, and the memories that are coming back around are so deep and so cellular, and the things that it's kicking up, it's beyond our radar. But I do feel that a lot of it has to do with the previous times of earth catastrophes, and when the energy matched, and I've said this before too, when we were on a descending age, it's like we hit this point, and this is where it starts to fall and things change, and now we're hitting that point here, but we're on an ascending age, so it's the exact same energy, but we're going the opposite direction, because it's the polarity. So we're doing it the other way. Everything has to be balanced. We do it one side, we got to do the other side. We do it up, we got to do it down. It's like where we're at, but that sort of unconscious tremble, unconscious tremble, and just not letting that hold you back, having healthy boundaries around that understanding. That's how it works. If you are feeling that, maybe this is helping you to understand, or to remember, when you expand, it kind of expect some of this stuff to get kicked up. And again, the levels that we're at now, so this is the thing, it's like on that spiral, we've done levels of expansion and contraction before. We expand and then we purge, but they're farther spaced apart, and they might be a little bit closer to the surface where you can understand it more. It doesn't shake you on a cellular level where it really hits the traumas you don't remember, the traumas that created all the traumas that you've had, the echoes of that trauma in the lifetime, where we're reading really, really far back. And so just, again, that message of that we are being very assisted with this, and that we're safe, and we can do this. And again, just knowing that, it's a really big move going on right now, really big move. And I think that's why also, you might be feeling this too, like just feeling things on so many different levels or angles, where things are coming, like for me with the gatherings with the people, where it's just so much, it's so fast, and it's all so packed with coding. It's all, it all holds a whole other version of this, where it's almost like we're being chiseled into the diamond. We are being assisted. We are being helped with this, through the guidance and taking action on that. Like normally, like I said, I wouldn't do so many social things, especially if I was like, well, I'm going to be getting back really late at night, and then I have to go down to the desert house the very next day, and then my son and I are going to do a gardening project, and now that's just too much. But I just knew to do it. I knew to do it because I felt that guidance, and I felt that alignment with it. And so, just that we're being guided to whom and to what projects and activities. And it might be kind of a lot right now. It might be a lot if you're feeling that, but that's just because it's there's a big thing going on right now, and so it's like we might be playing it out. We might be playing it out in the outer world with others. There might be a lot of collaboration energy if you're experiencing it the way I am, or it might just be a lot within you. A lot is that you're feeling, or maybe one trigger after another, or one realization, or both. That type of thing. But it's just deep, it's really deep. And so it takes a lot. It can take a lot to clear it all, or to unravel it, to whatever the words are. It's like that, right? There are no words or real linear clarity. It's like this. There's just this thing right now. And this thing, I feel like my friend and I were in the hot tub. I feel like she said something very similar where she didn't have words, but she just made some hand movement. We were all like, yeah, we knew exactly what she meant. But yeah, healing, exactly. Okay, it's a healing, the really, really, really deep healing on many different levels. And a lot of the things that we're healing from are from other timelines or other lifetimes or other galaxies or other, things that we don't remember. And there is something in this lifetime or some kind of energy or some sort of connection that we can understand, that can be conscious, but so much of it links back further. But huge time of healing. It's coming out underneath the Emperor. So again, look at how those colors match. Wow, that's really interesting. And even his staff and that right there, they're not the same, but they're kind of similar. Like, what is this? What is this? It's almost like a bleed through. Like here's your Akashic self that's like holding all these memories, and then here's this like a window, this window that's opening, this window is opening where there's this kind of bleed through, this bleed through. And even this kid, look at this poor person, with all his heads all wrapped up, and it just kind of this kind of reminds me of the energy of the at the place, at the hot springs, at the sanitarium, is that what it's called? They have a healing room, but it used to be the surgery room. And so we went in there, and we were all, my friend that lives there had already had her feelings of it, but my daughter and I both felt the energy, and just sort of this like old, like archaic, like just cutting into the body type of energy, like again, the history and all the different things that we've been through and all the different traumas and all I'm just really getting from this reading, because I wasn't feeling entirely clear, again, because this is sort of the dominant energy, but just that there's so much linking up. There are so many threads to so many paths, and again, like I was saying, just kind of these windows, these bleed throughs where there's a lot, there's a lot of assistance, but there's a lot that we're connecting to and clearing. And maybe even being on that, there's probably a reason why my friend is living out there, and a reason why we went right there, and what was our connection to that type of healing past. And especially a lot of us that are clearing and healing some of the medical, the medical mind spell, and coming into a more consciousness based healing and an awakening based DNA activating way of viewing our health and our wellness, and aligning with that, right? And some of the more barbaric types of things, it's like, whatever you're doing, pay attention, especially if you're on a certain land with a certain history, or what are the layers on the land, or who are the people, what are the codes that you're getting from the people that you're connecting with. And my daughter keeps noticing different patterns in her life where there were like 3 or 4 things that happened over and over again, where she was like decoding it, and then they were linking up with things that I had happen, so we were decoding it. And just that, like a lot of information coming through on a lot of different levels, and giving information, giving information about what we're clearing and what we're accessing. So that's sort of like the deep dive version of that, but then at the same time, that leads into this, because we were using this card as the realization, the epiphany. So, you feel overwhelmed, and then you start to kind of decode and look at the patterns. And again, they might be through different group. I just got chills. They might be through different groups of people that represent completely different things, and yet there's a thread through them all. They all kind of connect. Just noticing the patterns, and then those, and then what feels like this. What feels like this is not in a linear way. It's more in like a fractal, like circular, mysterious sort of liminal space type of way. But then you open up that channel to receive, receive the downloads and the clarity and the understanding, and the just the whole big picture and the duality. Because for me, this is kind of a lot, but I think I can get it out. Like with my knees, I saw on my left knee, the sort of tragedy and the loss and the grief from, my planet exploding, or being taken from my planet, or the whole place, like with Atlantis and everything being destroyed, and all these things, and the grief. But then I went over to my right knee, and the right knee is where I always feel the perpetrator energies, where, we're both, we're both. And that's the thing. The society wants to focus on only the light in us and only the positive. And that's where we can really fall prey to separation consciousness, because we're both as well. We want to view everything as an attack or view everything as a victim. And yet we've played that other side too. And I've known that. I discovered that last time when I had it with my knees, that I was part of the fall as well. And it's like, I wanted to experience that individuation, but part of why I wanted to experience that individuation and that fall was because I was signing up the long haul to weave it back together at this time. And you need to understand the dark and fall prey to it and be lost to it, and then dig your way out of it. And then to be able to unify it at this time, at this time when we are coming the whole way through. And why are we coming the whole way through? Because we've had both polarities separate, and we're bringing them back together. And some of us taking on and living and experiencing and remembering living and experiencing both. And you'll know that you did that if you've had a similar thing in this lifetime, where you had darkness. You were in some kind of darkness that may have caused you to be dark, just as you unravel. Or maybe you were aligned with someone where you completely lost your power and you found yourself doing things that you didn't really want to do, but you kind of had to for your survival, but you kind of got wedded into the darkness. But then you met your own darkness, and it would hook you up again. That's the type of thing that would hook you up. Through the timelines to understand. Okay. So if you're it's a lot, but if you're relating to this, then you know what I mean. You know what I mean, where those memories start to come back online, and you can see this is just the dance of polarities, and it starts to break down the duality consciousness. That's when you can come into unity consciousness, because there's no more blame, there's no more victim, there's no more, because you were that, you can forgive yourself and you can forgive everyone, because it's the cycle of the ages, and it's the dance of polarity. And once you come into that extreme understanding and forgiveness, or seeing that big picture where you can see the place of everything, then that's when you come into that unity consciousness. You transcend the polarity game, you win the game, and that's where we come into, and we stabilize as heaven on earth. So if as you're coming into this energy and you're having these realizations, you start having this darker kind of stuff come up, it's because we need to incorporate that as well. And a lot of the memories that we have are not pleasant ones. They're not pleasant, and yet to bring it all back into unity, we need to see that, and to see that in ourselves, and to see that in our history, and to know that when everything is put together, it's all just God. It's all unity. It's unity consciousness, and it's only scary or off-putting or something we want to reject when it's held separate, right? So I feel like there's another round of that kind of shadow work going on, but again, it can be really subconscious. It can be really subconscious. I just had this energy, even like with the water, where it's just like one movement, like water comes and it washes over you like a wave, and it might knock you down and you can't breathe, and then you got sand all in your eyes, or salt in your eyes, and sand all through your bathing suit. It's rough, but it like cleanses something, like one swift motion, it kind of knocks you down. Yeah, I just got dizzy feeling into that energy. So yeah, I feel like we're kind of decoding right now, like what's going on behind this sort of energy, where you're like, wow, what is going on? Because again, it's one or the other. It's either this like, wow, I've had so many realizations, and I understand who I am and what I'm here for, and who I've always been, and what I'm doing. And then on the other hand, there's just like this deep grief, or deep release, or deep like I feel weird, or this deep kind of stuff, and being the polarities of that, and being really pretty extreme. I know I've said that a couple times, but just coming back to that. Okay, so yeah, and then the healing with the Emperor, again, the level of healing that we're doing right now is hooking back up us with our fullness and our wholeness, and all of our memories and our power. So really, really deep, and leading to being like having the key to the garden, and that key is the weaving of the polarities together, nothing being cast out. Really strong message with these two together, because they're representing a huge polarity, as I keep saying. Okay, so let's see what else. Let's do a moon card. This might be a little bit of a shorter reading because I jumped in. Depends if I go on a tangent. Oh, interesting. Discernment. Okay, so discernment, and then also this set healthy boundaries. So, and this is coming out. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because this is coming out right underneath this sort of like innocence, and even this with like the what I was saying about the nakedness and the vulnerability, where it's like the finesse, you're finessing being like completely sort of like beginner's mind, innocent, open-minded, but you're also discerning. And the first thing that I felt when I saw this, but it didn't get validated through the cards or through my intuition until now, was sort of this like be careful what you're receiving, because there's a lot of our the guides or the information or even other people who channel, or places that you might or beings or something that you might want to call on for assistance. It's like you kind of open up, you open up and welcome in some information like that. There's a lot of lower astral beings that would love to come and be an authority and would love to come and try to get control. So if you're in this place of vulnerability and you don't know what you're doing and you're kind of looking for answers, and maybe you're asking for help or something, it's like, ask your soul, connect with your source, connect with your channel, because if it's something outside of you, there's a lot of trickery always. But I feel like with these warnings right now, see, I'm not experiencing that because I'm somebody, like sometimes my daughter will be like, what do you get? And do you feel this? And, she just, like I'm a milk cow, and I'm like, I'm not psychic, she's like, yes, you are. And I'm like, but not like that. It's like, it's got to just come through me. If it doesn't come through me, I don't go out and try to seek and find it, because I don't know who I'm going to meet, and it's like, I know there are some real tricksters. I've seen many people in my life get all caught up in darker energies that pose just so full of light. And and it's just like, I just always have a really strong guidance. I think that's also why I don't do plant medicines and stuff like that, because it's just like a feeding frenzy for the entities, because everybody's clearing all this stuff and they're all around. And I always just, had a lot of guidance around having boundaries against that sort of astral stuff, and not wanting to put myself in situations where I had to discern, where I had to discern. It's like I just figured out pretty early, and I had said this in an earlier reading, I always had that direct channel to source, and even when I was told I needed Jesus, I was like, what do I need him for? What do I need him for? I don't need an intermediary. I have it right here. So I feel like that's one of the messages that I'm sort of meant to convey, because there is a lot of trickster energy, and especially if we are in a vulnerable place and we're feeling kind of disempowered, or we're feeling like we don't know and we need something. Well, so I was also sort of in a cult, I was in a cult like situation, and I really lost my intuition. I was really divided from this. I felt like I didn't know anything, and so I had to go the whole way down to the dark and lose, and then climb my way back up. So I have it like really strong now. At first I had lost touch with it because I thought I was going to go to hell, because I thought I was talking to the devil, and so it made me vulnerable. And then I got into the cult like situation where I gave it all away, just wanting to follow somebody. And now like I just have such a strong message of like, just trust your own channel, trust what you get, trust what comes through you, in whatever way it does. So a little bit, so I wasn't going to say that right away, but I feel like with a lot of these cards is just guiding me to just be careful who you listen to, and that's other people as well, other people that might channel beings or entities, or there's a lot with like the Galactic Federation, or like what are all the name, the Ashtar Command, all of these things, and it's like, is it really that? Is it really that? And there's all the kind of like trickery and the false light and stuff like that. So just being careful. I feel like there's an uptick of that type of energy right now, that trickery energy, because again, we're moving out of range, and we're moving into this back into our power, back into the golden age, and it's inevitable, it's happening, it's where we're at, again, the cycle of the ages, but it's also extreme polarities right now as we're moving through. And so it's just a time to be discerning, and to be careful about what you're communing with, and what you're connecting with, and what you're calling in, have that boundary, have the the best protection and the best boundary is just to go through your own channel, and to know your sovereignty, and to and again, that healing as you as you heal your self-abandonments, where you know, unlike him who turns and listens to himself, you look outside of yourself for other people. You ask other people what you should do, this type of thing, you know, and it's fine to have guidance, or to have somebody to sort of like reflect. Like, I feel like in the readings, the personal readings that I do, I'm reflecting back other people's higher wisdom. Most people are like, oh, that's so validating because that's what I thought, or that's confirming, or it's never like somebody telling you something that you don't already feel and know inside of yourself. It's a reflection. Guidance should be a reflection and an empowerment, not something that you're giving yourself away to. So it's interesting that's coming up right now. I think it's because, you know, so this is coming out, this card is coming out underneath the, this sort of like new path where you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. So you're feeling kind of vulnerable. And I think that's what it is when we feel vulnerable, instead of trusting that the answers will come. And which, again, you know, this came right after this, trusting that we are co-creating with spirit, that this is our path coming from our sovereignty. And this is coming up in the personal reading that I did today too. It's like you're protected and you're guided, and, you know, to trust yourself, to not look outside of yourself. Because which we might be tempted to do for like, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, just trust yourself and know that those answers will come, and be discerning when there is any type of guidance. Like, is it a reflection? Is it resonant in a reflection of something that you already felt within you, where it's just your higher self taking form in somebody else, or channeling through somebody else, or bringing you a message that confirms you, rather one that doesn't really feel right or doesn't really make sense. And you're like, well, because that's how I was in the cult-like situation. I was like, well, I don't know. You know, I've never done this before. I don't know anything about this. So I can't trust myself. I'll just trust you then, you know, and then you know, you can get on some crazy dark journeys that way. So yeah, just that, a little bit of a message of that, a big message of that actually. So, I'm curious if other people are resonating with that. Okay, so let's see what comes out under the King of Wands. Probably not going to be a shorter reading. Oh, the Queen of Wands. Oh, I love it. That hardly ever happens in these readings, where we get a divine pair, the King of Wands and the Queen of Wands, so the same element, and they just match up perfectly. So this is us. This is the state of consciousness that this is about, that we're coming into, where we're just a perfect match to ourselves. And again, that's the greatest protection. That's the greatest discernment, because you're already turning towards your soul and your inner feminine, and you are that match within yourself. And so therefore what you're attracting in is going to be a match to that as well. And that's how we start to weave our heaven on earth, that energy, and weaving it in our own lives and down on earth, because everything that we're pulling in then is a reflection of the integration and the alignment, rather than a self-abandonment, it's self-union, the self-union within ourselves. And then we can't experience everything that we're experiencing is a reflection of our relationship with the polarities within us. So once we have our polarities intact and we're taking action, like I always say, taking action on our divine guidance and looking within rather than without, whether it's through society's programming or the medical system, or, you know, a spiritual leader or group, or even somebody that you've always respected and put on a pedestal. It's like, you know, you're turning towards yourself, you're not looking outside anymore, then we can only attract in a match to that, and that becomes our heaven on earth timeline. But if there's still any kind of fragmentation or self-abandonment that we're working out within ourselves, then and then what we can attract in can be a reflection of that, right? So that's where that discernment comes in. But the hack to the whole thing is to just get these two intact. And so it's so beautiful that they're coming up to illuminate that towards the end here, where it's like, again, which is validating what I was saying, turn towards yourself and trust your own wisdom, even if nobody else. And this is the other thing that I've been experiencing, where I'm having these situations where, again, in those breakthroughs, so this is sort of like my realization card too, I'm using it in different ways, where you have those breakthroughs and you're like, oh my God, and you realize something and you expand into this new territory and you're seeing beyond the firmament, and you're just understanding and remembering what you've always known. And then you might be relating to somebody, and it might be somebody that you have a lot in common, but but they might be, maybe they didn't like expand into that yet, or maybe that's not they've expanded to something else that you haven't yet, but you have this piece that's connected to your mission, and you're kind of like the leader. You're meant to be, you're part of your Akash and everything that you've gained and earned. You're meant to kind of be the leader of this one thing, but you can't find anybody else who's matching up with you. Why? Because it's part of what you're meant to be the leader of, to forge the way. Again, the wing leader. Okay, so we're moving into this last card, and we'll see what comes out underneath it. But you're the one forging the way, but you feel completely vulnerable because you're like, nobody else is really matching me on this, and you might be tempted to be like, okay, well, maybe I should just tone it back a little bit. Like maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I went too far, or maybe, but really the ask being 7, 8, 9, 10. So here's a 10 card. There's like a completion. It's like there's another 10. Where was the other 10? This one with the discernment. So we have 2 10s indicating that sort of completion energy. It's like you've completed something. You've remembered something. You've hooked up. You've went through these portals, and you remembered something, and you earned that shit. You earned it. And it's like, if nobody else is there out on that edge with you, it's like, don't shrink back, and it's that threshold energy where you might feel, again, I've talked about this a lot, where you might think you're going crazy, or you might feel, like, yeah, just you might harm yourself or somebody else or something like that. But again, it's just that message of like, have you felt that before, where you go out on a certain edge and you almost feel crazy? Like, who was it? Somebody I was with recently, maybe it was my daughter. Yeah, it was my daughter, because we often go out over edges. But she's like, I don't know, maybe I'm crazy. Or she's like, okay, I'm starting to feel crazy again, because it's like, it's that Neptune energy where it's like visionary, but there's also delusion. So that's where that discernment comes too, but it's like trusting yourself and trusting the pieces as they come along, so you don't, if you start to doubt yourself out on this edge, you might have some, kind of like false helper come along, and try to help you and weave some kind of delusion, right? So be discerning, but also knowing that those edges that we're on, that we're pushing through, this is part of us coming home, part of us landing what we were always here to land. So there's a little bit of a finesse with that right now, because we are going out onto those edges. Okay, so this is all starting to make sense. Yeah, just having healthy boundaries, because we're reaching out into territories where there might be some stragglers. There is genuine help, but there might be some false help, so being discerning and taking it slow, but not backing down, and not throwing the baby out with the bathwater, but taking it slow, and waiting for your soul to slowly guide you at a pace. And a lot of it, it's like you expand and then you purge, and it's like, if you expand and you expand and you expand without purging, that's when you can get into that kind of like delusion type of thing. It's like, that's where we can really honor the polarity of like, we expand and then we clear, and then we get to integrate that expansion, and then we can really receive the things that are coming in a grounded, stabilized way. So, all right. Yeah. It's a shame, because some people only listen. It's not a shame, but some people only listen the first 10 to 15 minutes, but it usually like all comes together at the very end. So if you're here, I'm happy. I'm happy for that. But yeah, so just again, honoring that process of expansion and contraction, so that you're integrated, so that you're not susceptible to the delusion and the false light that comes around to try to prey when we're feeling a little bit vulnerable out on that edge. Give yourself time to integrate, give yourself time to purge, and give yourself time to listen, wait for your own voice to listen. And if you're not sure and you feel unstable, then just wait, just wait. Don't back down. Don't throw it out, but wait until you're clear, So let's see what comes out at 51 minutes. Let's see what comes out after under that card. Okay, I'm going to do my dragon deck. All right. All right, what did we get here as our as our closing message? Wow. So the King of Wands again. So he's come up in the last 2 readings at least, I believe, and then twice in this reading. And again, there's that red where we're anchoring down. So there's another indicator of that grounding that we're feeling, that integration where we're expanding, but we want to anchor it. And the way that we anchor it is we integrate. And often the integration might kick up a catalyst or something that needs to purge. And then we have both the light and the dark there at the same time. And that is the key. Remember, that's the key, having the feminine and the masculine, having the polarities intact, the light and the dark, the spirit and the matter. We're anchoring this down. That's how we get heaven on earth. Heaven on earth, we got to anchor it down. We can't just be like Icarus and fly up to the sun and burn up our wings. You know, we have to anchor. And so what does he do? His greatest message is that he listens to his spirit and he takes action. It's the masculine and the feminine combined in one card. But then we got a double message of that with her, the masculine and the feminine of the same element, the same message. So it's just really driving that point home to really lean into your own spirit and to wait for those messages, because we are expanding at exponential rate. So wow, that was really helpful to me. I hope it was helpful to you. That feels really clear. I'm tempted to summarize again, but I think I got it all out. You can always rewind. But yeah, okay, I am going to summarize. I have a friend that we're friends for 15 years, and we always powwow like this, and I always have a summary. She's like, what's the summary, Wendy? It's so hard to not summarize. But yeah, it's like we're busting out into these new territories. And again, this is a territory that in the past, in our Akashic past, you know, we've come to this point, we've gone into catastrophe over and over and over again because it was the cycle. And that's the thing that our trauma memory, our cellular memory, is remembering and clearing. And so in order to really stabilize and anchor down into this energy, so we actually stabilize in heaven on earth, which is where we're at right now. You know, we have to allow our souls to merge our polarities, so to allow the expansion to have its contraction, to allow the darkness to be a part of this as well, and to take action, to have both insight and action. You know, so we're grounding, we're working with both the polarities, spirit and matter, light and dark. That's how we unify. It's how we come out of duality consciousness. They're not separate, they're together. That is the key into this, into anchoring the heaven on earth timeline, being discerning and having healthy boundaries around what you're seeing out on those edges, because there is some trickster energy always. A lot of it is a reflection and a magnet to us from these parts that we're still clearing. So as long as we still are clearing the density, which will probably be going on for a while, I don't know, 10 years, I don't know, you know, to some degree, right? We're moving into this energy, but we still have, like, look at the sky, you know, that's why it came through like this, you know, just a really, really, really long time at this. He's really tired. He's been at, you know, things are turning now. It's almost like a 10 of Wands type of energy. We're laying this down. There's this sense of relief that I've been feeling, and I know others have been feeling too, where it's like we are coming into this. We really, oh, my ears are ringing. We really, really are. But we're still clearing. There's a lot. It's been eons of distortion. So there's a lot that we're clearing. So having patience with that and listening. So ending the reading again. So we basically have 3 messages of that inner listening. A lot of the messages of the polarity, having them both, honoring them both, which is how we're transcending that duality consciousness. So, all right. Well, I hope that made sense. And I hope that was helpful to you. Thank you for listening, especially if you've made it this far. And also, if you would like a personal reading, let me know. You can message me on Facebook, or if you're on YouTube, you could message in the comments. I'll give you my email. I also have my email on my about page for the channel. So, all right, much love to you all, and yeah, I'll see you next time. Oh, and we're coming up on some of the alignments with the comets. The 21st is a date with the Swan comet, the one that's inside our galaxy, and then the 29th, and that week I'll be in Colorado, so I won't be doing a video, but that's when the 3-eye atlas comes closest to our sun. So a lot of big energies continuing to flow in. So that's definitely this card. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go. Bye. Much love.